Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the AI 2030 show. My name is Xiaochen Zhang and the CEO of FinTech for Good, and also your host of this show. Today, I have a very special guest, and Philip. I have known Philip for a long time, and he is not only an expert in his own field, but also a good friend. So I learned a lot from him in the past. I hope that you will enjoy our conversation. So to kick a conversation started, and can you please introduce yourself and also your expertise in the field of AI, especially as it's related to healthcare?
Okay, so thank you very much. I said, my friend, I can even say in Chinese, 我的朋友. So for the invitation, and it's a pleasure, to contribute, to your event. And so I'm a French citizen. I'm sorry, nobody's perfect, and I spent about 30 years in big multinationals, mainly in two industries, about 15 years in the specialty chemicals and 15 years in pharmaceutical and biopharmaceutical. But I spent, let's say, at least the last 5-6 years moving into a different area, mainly into healthcare, but I think mainly also international keynote speaker, in many different countries, that I did it also China, Singapore. I was just coming back from Australia, Middle East. But next to the fact that I moved more into the healthcare space, and mainly talking about metaverse, healthcare in the metaverse and AI in healthcare. I'm also an executive advisor, board member in a few companies, mainly startups, in countries as various as Switzerland, France, UK, India. Recently, I joined also Kenya or New Zealand. So that's my short introduction.
Yeah, exactly. And I follow you on LinkedIn, and I see that, every day that you are at a new place or just addressing a new audience. And that's, I think, especially during this exciting time where that emerging technology is just impacting all industry, and then we do need thought leaders like you, and who bring the right knowledge to the right audience. So just to get the conversation started, where you mentioned about the metaverse, AI, and other emerging technologies, and maybe you can just give us your early thoughts, and how are these technologies working together to just impact healthcare or other industry as its progress.
Yeah, so it's very interesting because there's a lot going on, but on the other side, we still have to keep in mind that the healthcare industry is also sometimes slow. It's a lot of regulatory and things like that. We talk about, sometimes it's about life and death of people, so you have to be careful. But there are huge opportunities, but there's also a huge need. So there are different areas which, it's not an exhaustive list, but I would give some example. Maybe first one would be about medical diagnosis, where AI can be used, to in the diagnostic process. I recently wrote an article about that, even on AI diagnostic in the metaverse, so it's really to use, the data and the algorithms to analyze some of the data that we have, and maybe we are, as I said, it's about the volume of data and bringing that together, computing that data much quicker, and you can identify early signs, for example, of cancer or other more accurate things. If you think about, for example, also imaging, radiography and things like that, where AI might sometimes see something that our human eyes are not seeing on the first side. So that's one on medical diagnosis. Then there's also a big hope in drug discovery. That's the same. I think it's probably not the one moving the quickest, but the same. You expect that if you bring this huge amount of data together, and that you might find some insights that we as human beings cannot find so easily. So of course you need validation, all that, but you really think there might be some new stuff, some new potential drug coming out thanks to AI. Then there are
Maybe
simple
before,
things.
yeah, maybe
Yeah, sure.
before you jump into the next example, and just let's dive deep into this example. As you mentioned, that healthcare is in a regulated industry, and any of the decision which impact a life, and that's the decision itself is consequential, and so compare healthcare with any other non-regulated industry? And do you see any special challenge for the AI or metaverse or emerging technology adoption in this specific industry?
Yeah, I think really, the timing and all that, it's still, what should I say? On certain side, it's still a conservative industry, because I said they are risk averse and you don't want to take that. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but the thing is just that it takes much more time. I can even tell you that for example, from a accelerator, incubator for startups, some of them have gave up in terms of healthcare. They prefer to push, the candidates in other direction than healthcare because it takes more time and the ROI may not be as quick as in some other industry. So I think that's it's still a very conservative industry. And then you have, I would even say you have a generational challenge. The older people that are working since 30, 40 years in that field, and then a young guy is coming and say, look, I found that and AI helped me and all that. They say, go back to school. So I think it's also, you have to be open to listen to things like that. I have concretely an example I can tell you. In March 2020, I had a young student from Boston, 15 years old, who was contacting me because I do some mentoring and coaching stuff. And he said, Philip, how long do you think it's going to take to get a vaccine against COVID? And then I was saying, look, if we do it in 24 months or maybe 18 months, that would be already a big progress. And then he said, yeah, but that's old way of thinking. With new methodology and new technology like mRNA, we could be quicker. And I said, oh shit, this guy is right, but you have to be open to listen to that. And I'm not sure that everybody in the industry would listen to a 15 years old guy saying something like that and not tell him, go back to school, you're 15.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those are some of the very interesting challenge, and it's more from the mindset, right? And where that's emerging technology progress so fast, where that's we each one of us live with our legacy, and and that's just also constrained how we imagine, how we think, and all that. And if we cannot just overcome that, and then we really cannot see the potential. And another aspect of that is also AI can do good, but also, all emerging in general, can also do bad, right? And we already see examples where that's, some of the diagnostic result and being manipulated, and then they are using it to removing, disease, and then from the picture and all that, because you can really generate those image, based on what you ask. And then instead of what's the real disease or what real diagnostic result is, and then that has really a big impact in the diagnostic process, and also even in scientific discovery. And then how do you think that those kind of challenges can be addressed?
So first of all, I would like to say, unfortunately, those challenges existed before AI. So that there has been, lobbying, bad things also happening in clinical trials, fake results, manipulated results, and all that. The only thing which I think might be different today is because everything is bigger and faster. Maybe the bad impact could also be bigger and faster. But I'm just saying it's still back, to to ethics, to regulation, and all that. And the question, and I don't know if we talk now about it or it may come later, but it's still because it's quicker and faster with AI. You might need AI also to address ethics and all these things, because you need, some machine help, some technology to cope with this amount of data, amount of information and everything. So I really think that's the key challenge for me. The problem existed before, and it will still exist, but it can become bigger and quicker. And then we might need also the technology to better control and regulate that.
I fully agree, and I think again this is just a speed competition, right? And then while that's the bad guys doing bad things with now empowered by technology, where that's from the regulator side, and where that's to improve the SupTech, supervision technology, trying to just make sure that any of those potential result can be detected early on, or if there are consequences, then those can be also just properly addressed with technology. So then there's a need from both sides. One side is from the innovation side, that's how to create a better solution to solve problem in a faster, cheaper way. But in the meantime, from the regulator, how to leverage technology to protect privacy and all that.
And I may be a bad guy, I know you mentioned just data privacy. I have a little bit maybe old-fashioned way, or even I would even say a dictatorial approach to this problem. This whole things about data privacy and sharing data, healthcare data, and all that kind of things, very sensitive data. I'm basically against this whole discussion, because I think a patient is open to share his data if there is a positive outcome. If there's a better treatment and can cure him, he will be very open to share the data. And most of the people that are saying we should not share this data are not patients. And I think that I'm saying I may be a bad guy from that point of view. I'm saying because we are not good enough in punishing the people that are misusing the data, we are punishing the people that could benefit from sharing this data. And I think that's a little bit my challenge to say, then we do nothing because there's a risk of doing something bad. But we should punish the people that do something bad, so that you can really benefit from the positive side of sharing this data.
I agree. And again, that's I think sharing data itself in the new digital age is should have a new evolve. The definition should evolve in the sense that before sharing data is such a high risk activity, where that's individual. But now with technology like a blockchain, all that, you can really just the data ownership is not is from beginning, doesn't need to be owned by a third party. So a lot of protection is that a third party is sharing patient data, right? But now that's if me as a patient, I own my data, and the technology enable me to just really own my data in the way I can freely share data with anyone I want. So it's my own decision, my choice. But if the regulation doesn't allow me to freely share my data, and because that the regulation was introduced with the imagination, which all technology constraints from the past, and I think that is what you said is need also be updated based on the progress.
And I couldn't agree more. I think we already had the discussion, like I'm not a big fan of GDPR, not because of the solution itself, but because I know how long it took. They were talking 4 years, and then it took 2 years to implement. So 6 years from a technology point of view is very long. So until they came, to implement it, it was already kind of outdated. So I just give an example. You mentioned blockchain. Blockchain is a great technology, and I'm not going on to your field about, fintech and all that. I'm really talking just about the blockchain technology, the smart contracts and all that thing. So about immutability and all that. So on one side, GDPR, you have the right to delete data. On another side, blockchain is tamper-proof. It's about immutability and not changing the data. But it would serve the same purpose as you mentioned, bringing security and all that kind of things that you cannot, if you're not authorized, access those data. So that's why it should be today. And blockchain is the perfect solution. And that it's going to be more and more used. Blockchain technology is the basis of Web3. It's like maybe we talk too much about it, and then we have trouble to educate the people, because we have to educate, from the bottom to the sea level. But it's for me like HTML. Did we talk about HTML before? Not that much, But now we have to explain people what is blockchain. But blockchain is really in that space a great technology, because as you said, it's about the data ownership. You can also, reward the people if they want to share the data. They could earn money, tokens, or whatever. So the whole tokenization. So there is a whole data economy, for the patient that can be used, to basically leverage this technology.
Yeah, just now that's, again, from the diagnostic side that we talked about, how AI can help, to just uncover the insights which, human may, not be able to. And we talked about, potential implication or application of blockchain to secure data and all that. And so I know you are also an expert in metaverse. And can you also just bring us into the metaverse space and see how from the diagnostic side that how to combine different technology, include to do the diagnostic in metaverse? How does that help compare with the traditional way of doing diagnostic process?
Yeah, so first of all, I think metaverse for me is not just only VR. Some things you need VR, you want to do mental health stuff, pain management, and things like that, you need the hardware. But for me, there's also metaverse without glasses, so that more people can access to it. And for me, it's still back to one of my key purpose is to unload the actual physicians, nurses or doctors, because they don't have enough time to do their job, and they spend a lot of time. They only spend 30% of their time with the patient. The rest is data entry, is paperwork, and all that. So that's not the job of a doctor. So if I can remove a big chunk of that piece, online, being the metaverse or some other solution, then I can free up sometimes, for the doctors that they can do, what they do better. And again, there's a big discussion today. We do a big mistake because we make a competition between AI and the doctors, and that's insane, because it's a tool. For me, still more augmented intelligence. It's a tool they should learn to use like they use the stethoscope, and the point is, today the average GP visit, for example, in the UK is 10 minutes. In Germany is 7 minutes. In Switzerland is also 7 minutes, and all the other countries is 1 or 2 more minutes. And if you go to India, it's 300 patients a day. So today I'm saying the doctors are the robots, not AI. Doctors are robots today. I'm sorry to say that because you live in the US, but it's like coming to the immigration where you say next, next, next. And only if I can remove part of this non-added value task, and I can do that, with AI and being in the metaverse or not, then maybe the doctor may become human again. And again, the metaverse is for me, first of all, we come back to classical things, 24 hours, 7. You can access the best expertise at the other end of the world, which physically you might not be able if you are, in your village or in your city. So it's giving access to all this information worldwide and in an environment. So some is just doing what we do today in the physical world, in a virtual world, but some are new opportunities. And sometimes we don't think about new business models. We think about the same business model in a different place, but we should think about new opportunities. Take mental health as an example, which is a huge topic, becoming bigger and bigger every day, after COVID, or, burnout, depression, and all that kind of things. First of all, the patient is quite often the last one to recognize that he has a mental health issue. You know, we don't like to say we are in burnout or we are in depression. Our wives are telling us that to us, you know. And the point is, we are not always keen to talk to a doctor, to a human being. So maybe in the metaverse, you know, with avatars and whatever, we may be more open to talk about that. Then also you can talk in terms of community. You know, it's easier to talk with people or avatars that have the same issue than maybe with somebody you have the feeling he doesn't understand me. So these are all opportunities, you know, that you can have in the metaverse, you know. And again, I don't know if I should come already to that example, but I had an amazing experience where it's about having now doctors, you know, in the metaverse, which are basically fed by AI. You know, and if you want me to tell this story, I had an amazing experience this year.
Yeah, please. I think that'd be great.
So I went to Dubai a few times this year, you know, and I was there in March, and in March I had two keynotes. One was a, you know, 10 minutes one, kind of punchline, you know, to shock a little bit people about the healthcare metaverse. But the second one was in a scientific congress, you know, where doctors are there, they get the CPD accreditation points and stuff like that. And basically, when I started to listen to the other presentation, it's really hands-on. You know, they have the hands in the body. You know, you see blood, you see cut and things like that. And I was thinking, what are those guys going to listen to me? You know, talking about the metaverse. You know, because these are really physical people doing things. You know, with their hands and surgeries and all that. And indeed, when I finished my presentation, they were really very pleased about it. And they said, "Yes, Phillipe, we need that. You know, but who is going to provide the content?" And then I said, "Oh, now I have a problem. You know, I want to unload the doctors, so I cannot ask the doctors to provide the content, you know, for the metaverse, because that would be additional work." So I started to think about using generative AI like ChatGPT, you know, to basically fed the avatar, the doctor avatar in the metaverse. And I was initially starting with simple things. You know, if I have a headache and a throat pain, why do I have to go physically to a doctor and take a seat in a waiting room for somebody, a seat of somebody who might need it more urgently than me? To get what? To get some paracetamol and a cough syrup. So easy things like that. I think we can go in the metaverse and get these kind of things. You know, if you cover all the regulatory aspect about, you know, pharmacy, delivering drugs and stuff like that. And then I went back to Dubai in April for another event. And I just posted that I switched hotel, you know, after my workshop, you know, I moved from a city hotel to still going to the Palm Jumeirah to enjoy 2 days on the beach. And then I got contacted by a surgeon, a gynecologist and obstetrician, who said, "Oh, Phillipe, you're still in Dubai. I need to talk to you." And then I said, "Look, I'm only here one more day. You know, I have a late dinner tomorrow night, 9:30. So the only thing I can offer is either before the dinner or the next morning breakfast before I'm going to the airport." And say, "Yeah, but I'm following you since 2 years. I need to talk to you. So I come and I pick you up at 6 p.m. So I checked his profile, you know, I said, world-class surgeon, only 1 out of 100 doing a specific surgery in the world, you know, having a lot of awards, research paper and all that. So I was thinking that guy is going to talk with me about medical education, something like that. Finally, he came, he picked me up at 6 p.m. and you spent 3 hours talking about ChatGPT. So I talked about ChatGPT with a world-class surgeon for 3 hours, because that guy, before becoming a surgeon, he got Cisco CNA certified, and he was programming. So after surgeries, the guy is programming himself until 2 o'clock in the morning. And what he did basically, he reprogrammed ChatGPT the other way around, so that ChatGPT is asking questions like a doctor would ask you questions and do, you know, all the iteration that you do from the other side when you ask questions, you know, like a doctor's. And he created the first metaverse doctor for women health, you know. And he loaded more than 280,000 research paper, more than 40,000 algorithms, things like that. So now I have a metaverse doctor having the content that ChatGPT would not deliver just like that. So I have the validated content from a top surgeon for women health, and now we have a metaverse doctor.
That's an amazing story. And yeah, when we just think about new business model is always exciting, but how do you come up with a new business model? And you can identify to even in this digital age. To have a right question already be difficult because you can be distracted by all the wrong questions. To have a right question and then have a right approach to really just lead up to a solution. And that solution, that story is really an amazing one. And now just moving. We talked about discovery and the diagnostic, and then we also talked about a little bit about the education piece and all that. Do you see that AI can also, are there any other use cases that you have not shared, which you think, are very important?
Yeah. They are also simple things. As I mentioned before, one of the big pain in healthcare is always this administration, everything. So of course, AI can also help in terms of administrative activities, automate them and things like that. So because as I said, sometimes it's not always, we should not always start with the most complex things. I think we can gain a lot of productivity in our daily life and in healthcare too, if you're using it for simple things, to simplify things like writing reports, when you go to the doctor and all that. Not everything is complicated. They are things which are quite repetitive, even taking an appointment, managing all that. How the issue is about getting an appointment and following that. How many people missed an appointment or is changing at the last moment and all that can be done, with AI, being conversational AI. I think we have an issue that the first things about chatbots were not always good experience. I think how many times did you spend with chatbots and then finally pick up the phone and you need to have a person at the end. Today, the technology evolved a lot. So conversion AI and all that is actually helping to have much better chatbot, and you can finally get the answer and the solution with the chatbot without having a human being on the phone. And I said things like, appointments and all that, we should not need to have a physical person, at the other end of the phone to be able to do things like that. So they are, as I said, simple things like that we can also address with AI, not always the complex things. Then even tracking, drug adherence, that the patient are taking the drug correctly and all that. And then we might also come to topics, the conversions of technology. You mentioned blockchain before and AI, but also IoT, with devices, remote control, remote surveillance and stuff like that. So there are many things like that. Then also predictive analytics. Maybe if you have seen, I just joined a company on a board of a startup in New Zealand about wellness, fitness, and preventive care. Preventive care is becoming a bigger and bigger topic. And again, it's not about, I'm still saying today we still do much more sick care than health care. So it's about not becoming sick, rather than treating, or at least even detecting earlier, where you're on the wrong path so that you can correct that. So there are a lot of opportunities. And again, it's about, still for me, AI is the core of that, because, with IoT, you get a lot of data, you have big data topics and all that. And at the end, if you bring all this data together, you need AI to basically analyze and make the recommendations about stuff like that.
Awesome. Yeah. And when you were just talking, and each example just came to mind. And one of when we talk about the chatbot and how frustrated we are, and we just repeatedly just representative, and try to get human. It's the reason is not because we are mad, or we are not at the chatbot. It's really chatbot is not intelligent enough to answer the simplest question. But now that with the advancement of AI, that's definitely those kind of function and can really be provided with the service which can satisfy your need. And then with that, it's not that anyone really want a human being. It's whether my basic need is being met, and that's, I think, is the end. So but a lot of time that's when people just see, you know, people's their customers um, unsatisfied result against the chatbots, and then they say, oh, chatbot may not be the right solution, but actually it's not that. It's you know, it's not the customer need a human, it's customer need the service, and you know, there that I think
But unfortunately,
yeah,
we have this kind of backlog. You know, we are starting with a bad reputation, and then it's
yeah,
difficult to correct that. To say, no, today a chatbot is not like before, you know, because
yeah.
we all tried with some bad chatbots, and then it's, you know, you're already starting with a handicap. Huh?
Exactly, and now that's, you know, we talk a lot about the use case and the benefit and all that. So from the AI side, responsible AI is also a crucial aspect of the development, especially in healthcare. And could you elaborate on some best practices and strategies to ensuring the responsible use or develop and use of AI in healthcare?
Yeah. So again, I think we touched it before. I think the key issue is also that, you know, bad things happened before, but it's going quicker and bigger now.
Yeah,
So I think we still have some of the stuff is using the same as before, you know, like empower leadership. You know, leadership has to be responsible, you know, for what is happening. So leadership being in some companies, being also, you know, in big companies like, you know, Google, Microsoft, and all those guys with the data, you know, so that they really have to be responsible. Then of course we have maybe to develop new principle policies and training, you know, because you train people before of completely different aspects, so we have to adapt that, and that's huge, you know, because again, which body, you know, who is going to be in charge and to develop that. And I still have the feeling sometimes, you know, we are waiting for the other to do it, you know. There is no way, you know, every country is different, every organization, every industry, so somewhere we cannot ignore that, because, you know, it's coming frontal into our face, you know, so we have to do something. And then, as I mentioned before, it's maybe not just a human discussion, it's a human plus AI. You know, you should also use the AI technology maybe to cope with that bigger problem, you know, because human against AI will probably not be enough. You know, we need human and AI together, even in that space, in terms of fixing those kind of issue. And again, accountability, liability, all these kind of things, you know. You probably remember the stories about, you know, autonomous driving and things like that, you know. Who is responsible if AI has to take a decision about, you know, killing 2 persons here or kid on the other side, you know. So these kind of problems are still there, you know, because it's not about right or wrong. Sometimes you have to make the choice. It's not always black and white. Sometimes it's some gray. So who is going to decide, you know, on which side the balance is going to be? So that these are still topics which are not easy. And you cannot do all that if you don't understand AI. That's the other point, you know, because I still think today a lot of people talk about ChatGPT or Bart or whatever, the different generative AI, without having even touched it or tried it. So you have to learn AI if you want to govern AI. You know, it's not somebody from outside can come and decide what you should do or not do if they don't know what AI is doing. So again, this whole hands-on education training is very important, you know, because you have to catch up to be. And just today I had a discussion with one of my mentee in Singapore, a short chat on WhatsApp, because, you know, she's working in a profession which might also be under threat now because of AI. You know, she's working in a translation company, you know, so translation is maybe not something where you need that much human anymore, you know, because there was a lot of progress. And she said she doesn't want to move into prompt engineering, you know, because we know that we will have a lot of new jobs like prompt engineer. But she said, you know, maybe she wants to move into governance, risk, and these kind of things, you know. And I personally recommended her to go that direction, you know, because I think that's still a space where you will need AI, but you will also need human to do these definitions and these governance things. So I really think, you know, there are also opportunities there. you know, and really we need also innovation in that space. You know, you mentioned before this regulatory stuff and all that has been done, you know, for years, and we think we can live for 20 years with the same. That's not going to happen anymore.
Absolutely. And yeah, what you said reminded me of the conversation I had with Dia and yesterday. And, she, talked about the people, process, and technology, and then, how to just translate that framework into responsible AI. And every component it is important as an integrated part of that. But that framework didn't really incorporate is something bigger, which you mentioned. There should be a bigger social, economic, political debate and happen, and then to really define who can make what decision, and what kind of principle can be socially, politically, economically acceptable, as the new social norms. And before, you probably don't need to make those hard decisions, and then it always just happen anecdotally, and then you respond that way. But now that's because you need to predetermine certain new rules, and then you have to first have the social, economic, political agreement before you just carry out that, and then you cannot wait for things to happen to just make the judgment. So I think that's require a lot more work. And as you said, that this could be the new profession, and many large companies have a chief AI ethical officer, and new type of job opportunity coming, who are really leading those kind of efforts. And of course, that's you also touch upon something that I'm working on, and from the framework side, that's from the AI 2030, that's I brought together now 50 some world experts trying to come up with sector specific framework, and which then make it as an open source, and where that's anyone can just really give insights, improve it, including the the human machine intelligence all into that. And we have received some donation from larger company of the code and all that. Those code can also enable companies or other organizations to be able to build the responsible AI tools and implementing framework easily. So that is, again, it's really the beginning of a lot more work need to be done. And my maybe two more questions, then we can. So another question is really around the startup, and because I know that you are on the board, or you are advisor of many startups. You are also mentor of many young folks, and you have add tremendous value to those startups, and also for the career of many young person. So in general, especially giving what you are seeing there, and what are the advice that you gave to them in terms of the human and machine collaborative intelligence, and how can they just cultivate opportunities in the best way, considering what's happening around them?
I think the key point for me, and that's why I enjoy a lot, is really a different generation. As I mentioned with the example from the guy from Boston, and I have many of those, 15, 16 years old guy, I recently had discussion with the guy from Vancouver, Korean origin, 16 years old, he works in a pharmacy, and our first Zoom discussion was about longevity, Alzheimer, Parkinson. When I was 16, that's not what I was talking about, So really, I think we have amazing talents, and they have other values. Even if we talk about, now sustainability, impact, and all that, where is the pressure coming from? This younger generation are sometimes choosing their employers or whatever based on such values. So they have very great values, and I think it's really rewarding for me to support them. So I think that, as I mentioned before, things like wellness, preventive care, or topics like that are coming more and more. the advice I'm giving to them is because, as I mentioned before, some accelerator or incubator are even not touching anymore healthcare because it's too complex and all that. So I'm not telling them it's I'm not discouraging them to go there because there's a big need and there are big opportunities, but they have to understand all this regulatory and all that is not always that easy. But they are amazing startups, amazing ideas coming out there, and I still think there's still a lot of place. For me, the healthcare, the house is burning. So there are a lot of things to do. So it's not about one company that is going to do everything and all that. Despite the big players, despite the Google, the Microsoft, the Apple and the Amazon, there is still a lot of place for small startups because there are so many different things to do. There are also a lot of niche. Of course, if everybody wants to do diabetes, there are already thousands of startups and applications out there. But if you go into a niche, then you might have a good opportunity.
Yeah, and you talk about the niche and all that. If anyone who want to invest in, AI for healthcare, and what are the niche markets which they could potentially look into?
Yes, I think that's a difficult question. You know why it's not only about niche, it's also that we got some failure recently, companies even that got millions before, even more, like Babylon, Peer Therapeutics. We have even big companies like biotech companies like Biogen divesting the whole digital health department. So that's not a good message on the market. I still believe there are big opportunities and there are also reasons why those companies have failed, because I think that's the point. Probably they got money too easily, too much money too quick, and probably was not used the right way. You have a finance background, that we should still be careful with the money, how we spend the money, how we do that, because it's not just burning the money. So I still think it's of course hurting the reputation of digital health and all that when you have stories like that coming up, like it was blockchain, when you have also some of these up and downs. But I still believe as well in blockchain as in digital health, but I still think we should not boil the ocean. We should start small, and doing pilot, proof of concept, and all that kind of things, and then it's very different from country to country, because I think it's a cultural issue also. Some countries are more open to testing and then fix it afterwards. Some want to have everything fixed upfront before they start something. So these are still the challenges you have in different countries and region, that there's a different approach. But I would still, again, saying we should invest in healthcare because a lot is going to happen. Why do people invest in pharmaceuticals? Pharmaceutical is also risky. You have good shares, big money in pharmaceutical, but tomorrow there can be a scandal about a drug. I don't want to go to things like the opioids or whatever. It can go quickly down, but people still invest in those companies. So I'm saying somewhere, you need to take a certain risk, to also and again it's really sometimes you have to check when it's about investment. You have to check, the scientific background, of what they propose, because sometimes it's just an idea and the biomarker, whatever, is not there. So you have to be sure that there is something and it's just not just a nice idea. And really, I think there are still big opportunities, in the healthcare investment.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned about startup fail, and too much money can make them fail. Too little money can make them fail. And good team can fail. Bad team can fail. Good intent can fail. Bad intent can fail. So that's life. That's also the investment. The reason why people say that investment is high risk is because no matter how prepared, and then there is a chance you'll fail. But as a good investor, and then you calculate the risk, and then you bring the right resource. You help to push, right, and then when you find the right innovation and especially find the right problem, because as what you mentioned, healthcare has enough problem. Those problems are important enough. And when you find the right, solution with the right team who really solve those problems, and if this team doesn't work, there's still another team, but because the problem is still waiting for you. So with that, thank you very much for this conversation. And I think, again, each time I talk to you, I learn a lot, and I always enjoy our conversation. And I hope that our audience will also just, enjoy the insight you share with them. And AI for healthcare, or in general, emerging technology for healthcare is really an important field which require demand more attention, more efforts, more investment, more education. So I think that you are doing an amazing job. And then to speak on behalf of the sector and then bring the emerging technology and the problem of the sector together and try to educate more people to jump into this and contributing to problem solving. And I really admire your work a lot. Yeah.
So thank you very much. It was a very interesting discussion as usual.
Awesome. And thank you. And tomorrow and we at 8:30 a.m. Central Time, and we're going to have another very exciting conversation at the AI 2030 show. And come back tomorrow. Have a great day.